So Tna Impact took place once again in Orlando, Florida. The show starts with Eric Young and Abyss brawling backstage. ODB shouts out support and encouragement for her man, and even gets involved when she hits Abyss in the back with a thin pipe. Later, she yells for security, and no one comes out to stop it. The action moves to the ring, and eventually the brawl ends with Abyss choking Young with a chain by pulling the chain back across the top rope. Even though the brawl lasted a little longer than it needed to, it was a solid way to open the show. ODB's constant background yelling during the backstage portion was annoying, but overall it was fine. So then we have Ethan Carter III versus Robert Lashley. Decent match. The match ends with Ethan coming off the ropes and Lashley hitting him with a spine buster. Lashley charges toward Ethan in the corner but stops himself after Ethan bails out of the ring. Lashley follows him and gives him a clothesline. He tosses Ethan back in the ring, re-enters, and then charges and hits him in the corner with a shot to the chest. Lashley gives him a series of kicks, then attempts to whip Ethan across the ring. However, he sends Ethan back to the same corner and Ethan nearly collides with the referee. Lashley comes up on him and wraps him up from behind, but Ethan delivers a mule kick that sends Lashley to the mat. Ethan leaves the ring and starts backing up the entranceway, but then Willow comes running into the shot and nails Ethan from behind. The ref calls for the bell. The winner of the match by disqualification, Ethan Carter III. Willow continues his attack and sends Ethan into the ring steps 3 times. He goes under the ring and takes out a ladder. Willow slams Ethan's head into the ring steps. He grabs a chair and threads Ethan's leg through the chair as Ethan lies on the floor. Willow stomps the chair twice and delivers an elbow drop to the chest. He goes to the top of the ladder, but Ethan crawls under the ladder and struggles back up the entranceway. Once again, this appears to be another stall angle for Ethan until Kurt Angle is well enough to wrestle, because a Willow-Ethan program doesn't have a long-term feel. There really isn't anything there between him and Lashley anyway, and since TNA wants to start building Lashley, yet keep Ethan's momentum going in the win-loss sense, there wasn't going to be a clean win here. So then we see Bully Ray at the TNA Hive, sitting outside of Dixie's cell. Bully Ray says that even though Dixie summoned him to see her, she's too preoccupied to deal with him until she's ready. He says that he will deal with her mind play and meet her when she decides. Why does Bully Ray absolutely have to meet with Dixie in person so badly to tell her what he thinks of her? Couldn't he have done this at Lockdown? So then we see Montel Porter and Samoa Joe backstage. Joe tells Porter that it's eating away at him that Porter allowed Abyss to get involved in his title match with Magnus at Lockdown. He also says that Abyss has made it so that Eric Young won't be chained to him for the title match on the show. Porter says that he wants to prevent Abyss from interfering, but Joe simply states that he wants the belt that he should have won already. Porter says that he'll handle the matter, but Joe tells him that the situation doesn't improve when he tries. Here's an idea as to what Porter can do about Abyss. How about banning him from ringside? Porter has all this power, but he can't do that. So then we see Magnus and Ethan Carter III backstage. Ethan bursts into Magnus' space and wants to know why Magnus didn't back him up when Willow was attacking him. Magnus tells him to reduce the level of disrespect, and Ethan calls him a cheekster. Magnus says that Ethan resembles that more than he does because he got beat up by a circus performer. Ethan tells him that the working union between them is over, but Magnus informs him that he's the one who decided that it was done because he doesn't need Dixie anymore. He says that Abyss is his boy and that's all he requires. He tells Ethan to leave, and he does. This was good. This continues the heat between Magnus and Ethan, and it only increases the contempt that Magnus has for Ethan. Most of the power push that Magnus had behind him came from Dixie. With her gone, he has to blame someone for that. Since Ethan is the only family representative in his presence, Magnus is going to naturally unload on him. From Ethan's point of view, it gives him more reason to despise Magnus, particularly for insulting Dixie, and it continues to build for a possible Magnus-Ethan title match later on. So then we see Gunner come to the ring. Gunner says that he's on a natural high from beating James Storm at Lockdown, as well as from the past experiences of serving with his fellow Marines. He says that the Corps taught him to go after a goal without failing, and he credits his circle for what he's accomplished. Gunner points out his father sitting at ringside and tells him that without the family's back, he would be doing something else. He says that he's going to be world champion, and he hugs his father. Then James Storm comes out, drinking his beer. He squats, places the beer bottle down, and approaches Gunner and his father. Storm says that he's insulted that Gunner's old man hasn't exchanged salutations with him, since he's responsible for Gunner getting over. He says that Gunner's father's father is better off being in the grave because he wouldn't want to see what bums his son and grandson have become. Gunner hits Storm, and the two start going outside the ring. Storm hits Gunner with the super kick. He takes out some cuffs and attaches Gunner to the middle rope, adding a few slaps. Storm drags Gunner's father from his seat and holds him by the neck in front of Gunner, berating him. Storm releases Gunner's father and walks away, but he turns and watches Gunner's father try to help his son. Storm picks up his beer bottle from the floor, comes up from behind on Gunner's father, and smashes the back of his head with the bottle. Storm leaves as Gunner looks down in shock at his father. This was a good segment. Storm has done a solid job as a heel, and now he's going beyond expectations, particularly because of what he did here. The best way for a heel to get to a face psychologically is to go after his family. And Storm did that well as he added a physical companion piece to the mindfuck. He was helped extremely by Gunner's father selling the beer bottle smash so well. The only criticism for this segment is that Gunner should have shown more emotion toward the sight of seeing his father face down in front of him. Whether he called out to his father in fear of his being seriously injured or called for help from the back, we should have seen something along that line. That way, there would be more interest in wondering how Gunner would try to recover from the sight of seeing his father down. Other than that, it was good. So then we see Gail Kim backstage. Gail says that she's the architect of the women's division and that she's the measuring stick for women's wrestling. She says that Lady Tapa was brought in by her for enforcement purposes, but all she did was cause her to lose the title and lose to Brittany. Gail says that if Tapa loses to her in their match, Tapa has to leave the company. Obviously, there was a reason for the Gail-Tapa split happening so abruptly, as well as the stipulation of Tapa leaving TNA if Gail beats her. So then we see the glorified jobbers and Zema Ion confronting Sanada and Tigre Uno in their locker room, saying something about wanting them to lay down in the upcoming three-way tag team championship match. This was terrible. Every serious wrestler does not need to be forced into comedy skits. Watching Sanada and Tigre Uno being relegated to doing that was uncomfortable and pitiful. So then we have Gail Kim versus Lady Tapa. Okay match. The match ends with Tapa charging toward Gail in the corner and attempting to land a boot. But Gail moves out of the way. Gail delivers a series of kicks to Tapa's thigh and gives her a stunner to her knee. She throws a blow and comes off the ropes, but Tapa picks her straight up and drops her. Tapa struggles with her injured knee and tries to pin Gail, but Gail gets her shoulder up. Tapa grabs her by the neck, but Gail kicks her in the knee. She comes off the ropes and delivers a drop kick to Tapa's knee. Gail goes through kicks, punches, and a shoulder thrust to Tapa, but Tapa recovers and picks her up for the fireman's carry stunner. However, Gail escapes and hits Tapa's knee with a kick. She delivers the eat defeat to Tapa and pins her for the 3. The winner of the match, Gail Kim. Before this match aired, the news came out that Tapa had left the company, and the reported reason was that she didn't want to improve her skills in the ring. If that was the case, it's disappointing. Tapa wasn't impressive when she made her TNA debut a year ago, but she had something that could have been developed, and she didn't give herself the opportunity to allow that. Time, money, and effort that was wasted on Tapa could have been channeled toward a female wrestler who would have wanted to become better. Could Tapa have become a better wrestler with more work? Likely not. The point is that she didn't try. The development now leaves Gail without an opponent to face. It's too early for Taryn Terrell to return, so Tapa's departure could be the opening for Shauna to be signed, or the woman that I've been harping about, Melissa Anderson. So then we see Montel Porter and Willow backstage. Porter tells Willow that he wants him on his team because it would give him the chance to make Magnus miserable for costing him the chance to win the world title during the Bound for Glory tournament final. And Willow says that he doesn't deal with other people's matters and that he is only about him. He laughs and leaves. Okay. So then we see Angelina Love come to the ring. Angelina says that Velvet Sky has had 7 days to decide whether the beautiful people will be back together or not, and that she needs an answer. She calls out Velvet, and Velvet comes to the ring. Velvet says that Angelina helped her along the most during her early days in TNA. She says that she almost quit and that Angelina prevented that because she saw potential. However, Velvet says that she didn't feel like an equal and that Angelina didn't want her to become better. Angelina says that having more experience entitled her to be the boss, but points out that when she wasn't in the company, Velvet accomplished things without her. She says that it's best to be with someone than to be alone. Angelina tells Velvet that she wants to be back together, and Velvet responds by saying that after going through crap with Chris Sabin, it's hard for her to confide in someone, but she can do that with Angelina. She says that even though situations haven't been great between them, the beautiful people are a team again. Angelina says that Madison Rayne needs to come out in order to make the group complete. So Madison comes down to the ring. Angelina wants Madison to rejoin and yells out her names, being herself and Velvet, but downplays calling out Madison's name. Madison tells Angelina to say what she just said again. Angelina does the same thing in the same manner, and Madison tells her that she's not the subordinate that they saw her as in the past. Angelina tells Madison that she was a fresh fish that had to be put through the paces, but Madison says that she's the women's champion and that she doesn't need that type of static anymore. She declines the offer. Once again, this was another Beautiful People segment that dragged. The only thing that I did like about this is that there was focus on the fact that Madison was not looked upon as an equal to Angelina and Velvet when she was part of the group in the past. Therefore, it acknowledged something that was relatively true, and it served as the sole basis to build this storyline. These segments just need to be shortened. So then we see Magnus backstage. Magnus is asked if he's worried about his title defense against Samoa Joe. He says that Joe is the one who should be worried because he doesn't have what he has, someone who will be there to help him if needed. Magnus says that the way to control Abyss is with cash. Joe appears and gets in Magnus' face, telling him that he will be submitting in the match. And now Snow comes into the shot and breaks it up. So then we have a three-way match for the World Tag Team Championship. The Glorified Jobbers defending against the American Wolves and Sanada and Tigre Uno. Decent match, but solid action between the American Wolves and the team of Sanada and Tigre. The match ends with Tigre making the tag to Sanada as Robbie E tags Mr. Duh. Sanada hits Mr. Duh with a couple of elbows and a Hurricane Rana. He picks up Mr. Duh and slams him to the mat, then goes to the top rope. However, he sees Zema Ion holding up the X Division Championship belt and taking a photo of himself. Sanada jumps off the top rope and knocks Ion down outside the ring. Meanwhile, in the ring, Tigre ducks a blow from Mr. Duh and attempts a spinning head scissors takedown, but comes out of it and drop kicks him from behind, sending Mr. Duh over the top rope. Davey Richards tags Mr. Duh as he's going over the top rope and comes into the ring. But Tigre kicks him and takes him by the hand, jumps up to the top rope, bounces twice off the top rope, and executes a springboard Hurricane Rana. Tigre ducks a blow from Eddie Edwards and goes to the middle rope. He knocks Edwards away with a kick and comes off the middle rope with an attempted Hurricane Rana, but Edwards grabs hold of Tigre's legs and lifts him up. Richards jumps up, grabs Tigre, and executes a double knee backbuster. Richards goes for the pin, but Robbie E breaks up the pin. The American Wolves throw the Jobbers out of the ring, and both Richards and Edwards go to opposite top ropes with Tigre down on the mat. But Robbie E and Mr. Duh shove them off. And then the Jobbers execute a bear hug lariat combination on Tigre Uno to get the 3. The winners of the match, the Glorified Jobbers. This would have been a better match if the American Wolves faced off against Sanada and Tigre Uno directly. When these two teams interacted with each other, the action was fast and exciting. When either team interacted with the Jobbers, they had to slow everything down and adjust to working with a less talented team. The tag team division will continue to suffer if TNA Creative continues to think that the joke about the Glorified Jobbers as the champions is funny. So then we see Angelina Love and Velvet Sky backstage. Angelina says that she can get over what Madison Rayne said because she was speaking the gospel. She says that she wants Madison to know that she's not that chick anymore. Velvet tells her that she should find Madison and discuss the situation without an audience. So then after another Kenny King, King of the Night video, which hopefully will be the last one so we can see his ass already, we see Angelina Love and Madison Rayne backstage. Angelina wants to discuss the subject from earlier, but Madison doesn't. Angelina tells her that she isn't the bitch that Madison thinks she is, and that if she doesn't look to her for support, she'll sink. Madison tells Angelina that she has made a point since she thought Gail Kim was cool with her, And Angelina says that's the reason why they should all be a group again. Madison says that she'll let her brain process it, and they hug. Madison turns to leave, but Angelina grabs her by the hair and puts her face into a locker. She knees Madison in the midsection and starts choking her, telling her that the beautiful people don't include her. She leaves. The attack was weak, but Angelina's turn now puts Velvet in the who do I choose spot. The way it looks is that either Velvet will turn heel on Madison and choose Angelina, or the unexpected could happen and we could see Velvet choose Madison and have Madison turn on Velvet and join Angelina. Either way, Velvet will likely make her choice next week. So then we see Montel Porter and Samoa Joe backstage. Porter asks Joe if he wants the info on whom will be looking out for him. Joe says that he's more concerned about someone else getting at him. But Porter informs him that he'll be chained to Abyss and adds that working in his company platform will solve the problem. So Porter chaining himself to Abyss is a better solution than banning Abyss from ringside. Of course. So then we see a video segment featuring Mike Knox. Knox talks about a woman named Tna from his childhood, telling him that he needs to take care of some business back home. He mentions the carnival that the family runs, and he points out that his father wanted him to run the business instead of becoming a wrestler. He says that he has to face the old man to see what's going on. Tna never gave Mike Knox the opportunity to be an individual within Aces and Eights, but now they're doing that. I would prefer to see Knox as the guy from that group without the references, but it will be interesting to see what they do with him. So then we see Bully Ray laid out on the floor in Dixie's cell at the TNA Hive. No, let me guess. Dixie did this, right? So of course we see Bully Ray from earlier walking into Dixie's cell. Bully Ray is supposedly talking to Dixie, but we see the back of a chair. He quote unquote tells Dixie that everyone hates her, including himself. He says that she couldn't stand him because he wouldn't be her obedient soldier. Bully Ray says that Dixie's visit to see him in New York was another attempt to do that, and that it led to what he did at Lockdown. He says he's done with talking to a faceless Dixie, so he turns the chair around and it's empty. Cue cheesy dramatic music. Oh wait, they've been doing that. Robert Roode attacks Bully Ray from behind and throws him into the wall. He slams Bully Ray's head into the desk and takes the sacrifice portrait from the wall. Roode uses that hard as hell cardboard to knock Bully Ray down and out to the floor. Roode continuously tells Bully Ray not to fuck with him. Up until Roode's attack, this segment was lame. I already mentioned the lame music, but the fact that when we did see a shot of the back of the chair, it was obvious that no one was sitting in it. And then we have Bully Ray saying that he's not going to talk to the back of a chair when he was already doing that for 2 minutes. The Roode attack was short and solid and continued to build for their match at Sacrifice, but the segment suffered because of the cheese. So then we see Magnus and Abyss backstage. Abyss tells Magnus that he has something prepared for Samoa Joe and Montel Porter. He empties thumbtacks from his hand, which means the probability of a fuckfest just increased. So then we have the World Heavyweight Championship. Magnus defending against Samoa Joe, with Montel Porter and Abyss chained together at ringside. Decent match. The match ends with Joe charging Magnus, still bothered by the injury to his midsection. Magnus moves out of the way and charges toward Joe, but Joe delivers the Uranagi. He locks the rear naked choke on Magnus, but Magnus escapes with a modified stunner, causing Joe to knock the referee to the mat. Outside the ring, Abyss hits Porter and goes under the ring to grab the bag of thumbtacks, but Porter hits him and he drops the bag. As Abyss and Porter pull at each other, Porter goes onto the ring steps and comes off with a punch. Then Porter takes out a key and releases himself from his cuff. He throws the bag of tacks up the entranceway, but then Abyss hits him from behind with a chair. He gives Porter another shot to the back. Joe sees Abyss and comes off the ropes for an attempted suicide dive, but Abyss throws the chair at Joe, hitting him in the head. Joe falls back to the mat and Magnus comes off the top rope with a flying elbow drop to get the 3. The winner of the match, Magnus. Show in. Once again, Magnus does not win clean. Once again, a champion that needs to be stronger gets weaker. Once again, a man that supposedly has all the power in TNA doesn't know how to use it. Once again, a creative team that thinks that they get it still doesn't get it. This merry-go-round has gotten old, and it has to come to a stop. When does it stop? A sensible question to a senseless situation, but will the answer make sense? I'm Tazmark 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for March 20th, 2014. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. And if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, please leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter. Tazmark 2002, that's TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tazmark2002@gmail.com. Be sure to watch the Impact review that I do with Chuck P live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's YouTube channel. If you can't watch us live, you can always watch the archives. Decent show. Decent show. The World Heavyweight Champion of a wrestling company is the face of that company. He represents himself not by what he does in the ring, but also by what he does outside the ring in relation to his character and how that character is used for marketing purposes. It will never matter how well Magnus represents TNA outside the ring because he has been a terrible representative inside the ring because of what he hasn't done. And that's be a strong champion. It has to start in the ring. And that has to be the core. And then you can create the exterior that complements it. If an apple looks good on the outside, but the inside is unappealing when you bite into it, do you keep eating? I'm Tazmark 2002. Gone.